Let's continue with the topic that welfare laws focus on the shifting from military armed attack to welfare laws, which is much slower and on a smaller scales, and then not as so explosive as the military invasions. Um, I mentioned that I have behind this welfare laws focus, I have seven smaller ideas, and then I'm not gonna repeat here, but including some proportional domestic welfare laws, including the court law case, like you have to, the victim or claim the alleged victim has to um, raise the issue to make the request, and then also talk about, you can't just um, look at the aggressor side and say that the aggressor, if you are doing something purposely, organizationally, systematically, persistently, then you have a case. Not necessarily, okay, because you have to look at the victim side. On the victim side, you have to remember that they have the burden of proof to show that they are the victim. Um, they have you can't, like I said the last time, that you can't just say, well, I invested $1 billion to strengthen my cyber attack. Well, you have to, not just that, you have to show that your bill, you spend $1 billion, but you have to show that that bill, at least partly because you have been a victim of the aggressors. So otherwise, you don't have welfare loss. You have welfare gain because your citizens are benefited from that. So those kind of things. But I purposely left one point to the end because that is the most important thing. That really, what's behind this emphasizing welfare laws. I said the last time, it's because in order to prove that you have really suffered a welfare loss, the key thing is that you need to have a very strong bookkeeping system. So you need to have a clean book. Not just the last year, but this year, last year, the year before last year, and even earlier. So like 5 years. So that's what what I had in mind is that at least my purpose is that to push domestic bookkeeping, because if the country is consistently lost in a mitigation case, and then people because that will be international news, right? And then with given today's social media, it's not. Um, it's almost it's very difficult. I can't say that it's impossible, but it's very difficult to hide the news that you lost international mitigation. Um, so here, the thing that I'm reading, that's what I emphasize this last point is that I want to using the international mitigation to promote domestic bookkeeping, and that's increase having a good bookkeeping system, increase the transparency, increase the government accountability. Other things equal, right? So let me just did remind me famous saying that by Tolstoy in the Anna Karenina Nina novel, and now it's later it's called the Anna Karenina Principle. Is that happy families all the same? Unhappy families they are unhappy because for different reasons. Okay, I want to say this one. I want to put this way. I said, if you look at this across the countries, you probably see that one thing is obvious is that if the country is a failed, using that Esma Gru's terms, why country fails, why nations fails. I think there's one similarity shared by all the failed countries, that because they are pretty lousy in keeping the book clean. Okay, either for on purpose because the government officers want um, to have like they don't want the transparency, they want to corrupt, right? So they can get the money, as much money as possible from the system. But either way, it could be, but on the other hand, you really sometimes, the country just don't have a very clean bookkeeping system. And then that's really, I want to that using the international mitigation, which is focused on the financial aspect, instead of a military aspect. And then the issue of a bookkeeping comes out, make it that highlight of the international dispute. Uh, Whether you have a good bookkeeping case, that's probably not much a problem for democratic countries, because they shared something that, especially in the U.S., the bookkeeping is very pretty good, and consistent, strong, and then it's much more transparent than the failed countries, right? So that way, so it's basically, I want to using this international mitigation as one system to push domestic reform, so to make the um, international uh, modern institutions at the granular level. I think that we have emphasized enough about the constitutions, about the democracy, about property right. Those are big, the major institutions. They matters, but I would say we need to pay more attention to the ground up, granular institutions. Let me give you an example that I was just reading that the security exams, and then there was one special case, special regulations says that an investment advisor or the investment advisor representative, they can donate up to $350 per election season, right? If they are they are the local citizens, they are in the same jurisdictions. However, if you don't live in the same jurisdiction, then, for example, if it's somebody from a investment advisor, they live in New York, but they donated, $350 to elected officer in Chicago, then SEC won't stop them. They will stop. Say, hey, you can't do that. You know what? They're gonna only allow you to donate $150. So this is kind of the bright line. Micro institutions, ground up institutions really matters, make a difference. You have to understand the reasoning behind this. The SEC says that you are a citizen, even if you are the investment advisor, you are still citizen. You have a right to express your preference. Excuse me. So if you live in the same jurisdiction where you have a voting right, you can, give up to $350. But if you don't live in the same jurisdiction, you want to give that much, and then your civil rights case becomes suspicious. You might have something, you know, uh, beyond like something that you can put on the table openly and clearly and transparently. So SEC says no, you can only donate up to $150. You know, so those kind of micro level institutions really has been overlooked, even by institutional economics. They have been talking about looking at the UK England before 1750, they emphasizing too much of the big macro institutions, but not giving enough. So I want to, that's one way for me to talk about the international mitigation. Use that as a way to shift the attention from a micro, um, you know, constitutional level institutions to micro levels to by increasing the bookkeeping. So that's the thing that I want to emphasize. Let's stop here.